The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Welcome to the podcast on Wednesday, the 28th of April, 2021. On the podcast today, Nick Lee, director at Pires Investments, discusses the transformational year that was 2020 and also covers post-period achievements. Plus, John Meyer, mining analyst and partner at SP Angel, talks about Bushveld Minerals, Empire Metals, Rainbow Rare Earths, and Rambler Metals and Mining. Plus, as always, at the end of the podcast, I have two lists for you: the top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours, and the top 5 most read RNSs. You can check these lists out at voxmarkets.co.uk. You'll see lots of other content. There's an article there on Mulberry Group. There's one there in Alta Strategies. Also one there in Pires, of course. I talked to Nick there. And, of course, check out on, our COVID-19 index. Biggest rise of the day is E-Therapeutics, up 14% to 31.4. Biggest faller, Tiziana Life Sciences, down 3.76. Not a lot, but 89.5 pence. Check that out at voxmarkets.co.uk.
Vox Markets is an online community of investors that runs a free mobile and desktop platform that allows you to track news and updates about any UK-listed company, offering RNS push notifications, detailed charts, pricing data, and much more. Find out more at voxmarkets.co.uk/app.
And joining me on the podcast right now is Nick Lee, director at Pires Investment. PIRI is ticker there. Nick, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, great to be here, Justin.
Yeah, you've announced your final results for the year. This is, of course, it was 14 months, actually, to the 31st of December. Of course, they're historical, but we can look back at them, and we'll also talk about post-period, what you've done there. Before we do, Nick, if someone's listening and has never heard of Pires Investments or vaguely familiar, can you explain what it's about, please?
Yeah, so Pires is an investment company listed on AIM, and it's very much focused on investing in next-generation technology, so things like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, immersive technologies, that sort of area. And we sort of do it both via an investment in a fund, Shore Value Ventures, and also directly. That's the sort of upshot, really, or summary.
Absolutely. And now it's been a big year for you, transformational year for you. You've changed a lot. So let's go through some of the highlights then, Nick, if you could. Then we'll do post-period as well, because you've also done a lot since the end of these results come out. So let's talk about the year first.
Yeah, so I mean, we have done a hell of a lot, and we really moved our focus into this next generation technology area, and we really started off doing that by investing into a venture capital fund, Shore Value Ventures, and very soon after we made that investment, one of the companies in the portfolio was sold, and we ended up almost getting most of the money that we'd initially put in back. Because the nice thing of investing in that fund is that when a portfolio company is sold, you end up being paid out, your share of the profits. So it doesn't stay to the end of the life of the fund. So that's great. So you're constantly sort of getting more money back. So that was our sort of a starting point. That's been busy. That fund's made various investments throughout the year to companies called Buy Me, which is a sort of same-day artificial intelligence grocery company. Get visibility, a sort of data management security business, and then various other investments in the fund. There have been follow-on investments, and the companies within that fund have also grown in value, because when a new funding round takes place with a third-party investor at a higher level, then the value of that investment is moved up. So there's been that going on. We then made various of our own direct investments. So we've made our own investment into Get Visibility because we think that's such a fantastic company. And then we've invested in a company called Low 6 that you may have come across, which is really a white labeled mobile sports betting platform, which is gearing up for an IPO this year, and hopefully quite soon. And then the third thing we really did was to sort of get going and started to invest in the digital asset sector, which obviously is incredibly popular and exhibiting massive growth at the moment. So that's the sort of, from an investment standpoint, those are really the highlights. And then earlier in the year, we raised some money to help sort of fund those investments, or that investment strategy going forward. So a lot going on really up to the end of December.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's look forward then, what you've been doing, and, well, not forward, but let's look at what you've done since December 31st, and also then we'll look at what you see happening further down the line, if you've got your crystal ball there, Nick.
Yeah,
go for
yeah.
it.
So really what we've really done the first quarter of this year, which is not baked into any of the year-end figures, because obviously it's in the first quarter of this year. A couple of things really. Because we like our exposure to Shore Value Ventures, we've sort of been looking at ways of trying to increase that. And the way we've done that is to take a position in another listed vehicle, Shore Ventures PLC, that has quite a large exposure to Shore Value Ventures. So that effectively has moved our effective interest in that Shore Value Ventures venture capital fund from 13% to 20%. So quite a material increase. And, we really like the portfolio of companies within that fund. They're all in incredibly interesting sectors with lots of potential for growth. So that has sort of moved our NAV up quite a lot because we issued a couple of £1 million worth of new Pires shares to fund that. And then the other thing we've done is we started off getting into the digital asset space really right at the end of December, going into January, and then we sort of used that initial investment to effectively get a position in a company called Pluto Digital Assets PLC, which is a broader range of technology services and platform company, again focused very much on the crypto, decentralized technologies space, and we felt that it made more sense for us to have an equity position in a company that did this rather than us do anything directly. And of course, that's done incredibly well. It's raised a lot of money, and our sort of stake in that space has probably moved from an initial couple of $100,000 up to, on the basis of the last fundraise that Pluto did, nearer £2 million. So again, that gain isn't within the 2020 numbers because it happened in the first quarter of the year, and Pluto is gearing up for a stock market listing, so that will all be very, very exciting. So yeah, I mean that first quarter has been incredibly busy, and it's just been more of the same that we've achieved in 2020.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the crypto space? It's very hot at the moment. I mean, a lot of people say it's a bubble. And that. So what's your thoughts in it?
I mean, we think it's here to stay, and that's really evidenced by all these major, investment management institutions allocating a certain amount of money to this particular space. But I think you've got to pick the right parts of the sector, which is really why we were very pleased to be able to consolidate our interests in Pluto, who have the expertise to do that. So we think as long as you're in the right space and you manage it properly, we think it's still a very exciting sector of the market to be in.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right there, hitting the nail on the head about letting the experts to navigate this field, because it's like I said, there's so many crypto coins out there that are running very hot and attract a lot of attention just through someone like Elon Musk pumping it on Twitter, and you think, well, that's not the, and you get people just jumping in, having no idea about underlying tech. So you've got to have someone who knows about this field, don't you, really?
Yeah, you really have. And then the returns that you can make are staggering. And and also what is interesting with this space is liquidity. You invest in a small listed company, you think it's going to be exciting. Well, there might be a bit of liquidity, but it's going to be variable. Whereas any real sort of listed crypto sort of token or currency, the liquidity is there. I mean, the liquidity is fantastic compared to other asset classes.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a hell of a lot. It's gaining a lot of definitely the tech is here to stay.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like the internet, isn't it? I mean, that lot will fall by the wayside. But it's trying to pick those winners, and if you pick that, those winners, then there's a major sort of value generation to be had, isn't there?
Yeah.
Marvelous stuff. Okay, Nick. Well, you know what I'd like to do now? 3 reasons. If someone likes the sound of what you're doing here but are not yet following the story, I want them to hit that follow button on your page, please. 3 reasons why they should.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really all baked into the sort of portfolio of investments that we've got. I mean, they're all incredibly exciting, high quality in very high growth sectors. And, what we also try and do, unlike maybe some other investment companies, is, we are very much focused on realizing the value of our investments as opposed to just sort of sitting there and, the money going one way. So, we're very focused on being able to deliver real returns to shareholders from our portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Marvellous stuff. Nick, good to chat to you, and hopefully we'll catch up in the not too distant future. Thanks so much.
All right, well, Justin, thank you.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite.
And joining me on the podcast right now is John Meyer, mining analyst and partner at SP Angel. All right, John.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Have you had enough of the party life in London? Are you back to the home office?
I must admit, I had 3 days of drinking and entertaining in London last week. It was good fun.
Well, I tell you what, we'll see if the vaccines are working, won't we? Because there's been a lot of people, going out in exuberance, and have really empire, especially in London. Like I say, it's a party town, outside, of course. But we'll see how effective the vaccines are, I suppose. And I suspect they are effective because there's a lot of people mixing of late, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's hard not to get caught up in it all. And it looks busier than it probably is because everyone's outside. But isn't it great to see everybody having a good time?
Yeah. Cool, marvellous stuff it is, yes, absolutely. All right, so go for it, Johnny. What's you were talking about? Do you know what, oddly, I saw on the news, and I did think about you, about catalytic converters are being stolen. Apparently, of all vehicle thefts, I'm sure I'm getting this right, it's gone up from 2 in 10, the catalytic converters, to I think 3 in 10 now, so it's increased a little bit during lockdown. People are going around nicking the precious metals in catalytic. So what's in them? Is it palladium, is it, or platinum?
Most catalytic converters are a 3-way catalyst with platinum, palladium and rhodium. Okay. And the loadings of those 3 metals change according to whether it's a diesel, which is more platinum rich, palladium rich, or a petrol engine. There's less rhodium because it's a much more expensive metal and there's a lot less of it in the world. But that 3-way catalyst works pretty well for cleaning up the exhaust out of a combustion engine. And of course, having that nicked is a major problem because replacing these things is very expensive. And I had a letter put on my car at the station last week, very kindly by the police, saying, look out for these sorts of thefts. And yeah, I have a problem because I like to leave my car at the station. I don't like to drive into London. And I can't keep an eye on my car while it's sitting there. So that's not good.
Yeah, but how can you exactly? What's the point of them saying that? Well, surely if you're parked in an area like that, there's a bit of security cameras there, surely, isn't there?
Well, I think the thieves find it very easy to get under an SUV, and they use a little battery-driven saw and they chop the converter out and they're off. I think it takes them less than a minute.
Hello. Do you know what you should do, John? Is put some low skirts on it. Like a boy racer car, so they can't get under. Some skirts on the side.
That sounds like a great idea. Yeah, go back to how I was when I was 18. Yeah,
exactly. Marvellous. Okay, let's talk about energy. So I know Biden came out. Was it this week? Came out with his plan for a new sort of clean, renewable energy future. Or anything strike you pique your interest there, John?
Well, yes. I mean, news we saw last night. The United States Department of Energy have offered up $8.25 billion worth of loans for electrical grid equipment and clean energy production. So that means wind and solar. Mm-hmm. That's a seriously large amount of money to get companies started. This is clearly in accordance with the policies of the Biden administration. So those loans are there for modernizing the electrical grid and to help deliver 100% clean energy by 2035, which is the target.
Yeah.
So they're going to be for high voltage systems, grid connections, offshore wind projects, upgrades to transmission lines, and it means that US infrastructure spending is going to get going quicker than many people have anticipated. And a lot of people have been looking at the US infrastructure spending and scratching their heads and saying, "Oh, this is going to take ages." The US have to, like most Western democracies, have to go through long periods of planning consultations and stuff like that. But actually, with this sort of incentive, and particularly for grid type equipment, you can start to put this into place really quite quickly, especially for upgrading the electrical grid network. And I think this is going to be amazingly good for solar, particularly quick, I think, to start with for solar and for battery backup. So we're talking photovoltaic cells supported by lithium-ion and vanadium redox battery installations as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was looking at a while back a company involved in redox batteries and all that stuff. And is a big market, you think, John?
It's not a big market at the moment, but I think it's going to be a very big market going forwards.
Yeah.
The Chinese started building a battery a few years ago, very big battery at Rongge, it's called, and we haven't seen what the results of that yet. But if we start seeing them building more of these VFRB batteries, then we'll know the results look good. They've got their own clean energy program, although they're burning massive amounts of coal, and very sadly they create energy from dirty coal, which they then use to make photovoltaic cells, which they sell to the West. So the solar panels that get put in aren't necessarily quite as cleanly made as they have been, although the Chinese manufacturers are moving to try and use more hydropower for this sort of manufacturing, but they're a long way off that. They're still very bad polluters. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they everyone's goal is like carbon zero by 2050, isn't it? Yeah, and I mean, when we look at the weather that we've been experiencing over the last couple of years, it does seem to have become different and more changeable and not quite what we were used to. Now, maybe that's just the fact that we were coming out of an ice age anyway. I mean, we don't get ice fairs on the River Thames anymore, which may be a shame.
I used to enjoy those, did you, John?
Well, back in the 1600s. Yeah. I mean, look, some of that was because the River Thames didn't flow quite so fast. It wasn't enclosed the way it is. But clearly, winters were colder for longer back in those days. So the climate does change from decade to decade. But the huge fear is that the amount of carbon dioxide and other gases that we pump into the atmosphere are not helping. My personal view is that we came into this world when it was in a cleaner state, and we should do our best to leave it the way we found it.
Yeah. You say that like I like that. I like that concept, John. But you say like this is just a stepping stone, Earth, and we're going to a different planet soon. So if we go tidy up, we're all leaving now. No, come on, put the things in the car, in the spaceship. I mean,
you never know it. If Jeff Bezos has his way, we'll all be moving to Mars.
Yeah, what is it with billionaires obsessed with space, aren't they? It's an ego thing, isn't it, surely? Elon Musk's the same, aren't they? They're all like that. But, I know what you mean. We have used and abused this planet, and before humans came along, it was probably a lot cleaner and nicer, wasn't it? So, we've mined it to death, haven't we, pretty much, or not?
No, there'll be a lot more mining to go on for a long time to come.
Yeah.
And I know there are companies looking at mining on the seabed, which has its own environmental opposition, and actually is technically really challenging. I mean, it can be done. The mining can be done, I think, quite easily. It's the lifting of the product to surface that's more of a challenge. So I don't think the mining industry on land is going to suffer a lot of competition for quite a while. But what we're seeing in the market at the moment is very good demand for steel, copper.
That would be a nightmare, though, mining on the seabed. That is not environmentally sound at all, is it? Because they're saying, is it plankton and all that produce the majority of carbon dioxide or whatever, so you get rid of, or suck it in and all that stuff, more than trees and plants. So you get rid of that, and we're really in trouble, aren't we?
Well, look, people.
Have you seen Conspiracy? Have you seen the film?
I think the worst thing from us on the seabed is trawling by fishermen.
Yeah. Have you seen that film?
Yeah, but not many people seem to object to it, which I find surprising. And as soon as you start proposing to do a bit of mining on the seabed, everybody's jumping up and down, complaining about it. So anyway, it's horses for courses. But for us at the moment, could the commodity, in order to create a greener planet and to get away from burning coal and support the lifestyles that we like to live, we still need to find more base metals, and we need to mine those as efficiently as we can.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Marvelous stuff. Well, in fact, why don't we do another planet? Another planet where no humans are, no species are, and then it'd be fine, that, wouldn't it? We can do that. But it's, I suppose, expensive to get up there, isn't it? And also, if you're doing a shift in the mine on Mars, it'd take a while to get home, wouldn't it?
Well, look, I think there's some very good films on the subject with Bruce Willis and people like that.
Yeah.
I think it gives a fairly interesting view of what it would be like, and maybe not so far off the truth in the future.
Yeah. Marvelous stuff. Okay, let's get on to individual company news. And I know you like, every week pretty much you like Bushveld. So, John, what's happening with your Bushveld?
I can't believe you said that, Justin. But yes, Bushveld Minerals, they found some financing for Enerox. So there's a company called Mustang Energy that's going to put $7.5 million into Enerox. Enerox is a manufacturer of vanadium redox batteries. So this is Bushveld supporting the manufacturing side of the business, having a significant stake in what I would call the full integration of the vanadium energy storage game. And so this is a pretty good deal. So look, I like Bushveld Minerals Energy. It has good cash flow coming out of the mines in South Africa. It's an important primary vanadium business, and there are very few of those around. So you can compare Bushveld with Largo, for example, and I think Bushveld's got a bit of catching up to do when compared with Largo. And Largo decided to go the integrated route, where it will also go into the construction and development of vanadium redox batteries, and Largo's share price took off. So for me, I think Bushveld's going to do very well out of this. It has a holding in Infinity Energy Systems, and it took quite a lot of profit out of that. And it's used that profit to reinvest in the Enerox business. So I'm quite excited about the prospects for the Bushveld Energy subsidiary that it has, and for Bushveld as a whole.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Bushveld as a whole, definitely. Empire Metals, John. EEE. Some news there. What's happening?
Yeah, they restarted drilling at the Eclipse Gold project in Western Australia. So they were giving us some details on what they're doing there. They've got a small, non-JORC compliant resource at Eclipse. It's very small. It's 2.25 grams a ton. But it shows that they're working on the pit designs, the slope angles for that pit, and it's nice to see them giving us that detail. And what I would expect is, I wouldn't expect them to really design the pit now. I think there's quite a lot more resource to discover here at the Eclipse project. And I think what they'll do is they'll develop this to a certain scale. Then they'll package up the design, and they'll probably sell it on. I don't see Empire as a mining company. I see it as a discovery company. But I see it as a company that will create value. And don't forget, it's in negotiations with its Russian joint venture partner over the Bolnisi assets in Georgia.
That's been a while now, isn't it? Is that getting anywhere? What's going on there?
Look, it must be close to fruition one way or another. The Russian joint venture partner has a first right of refusal to acquire those assets in the event of another offer. They had another offer from Candelaria, which is also developing a gold mine in Mexico. So if the Russians don't match the offer from Candelaria, then the assets will get sold to Candelaria, which is look, at least something's happening there, and it means that Empire can move on and do other stuff, which I'm sure will be good for the share price.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And Rainbow Rare Earths, talking about rare earths earlier, but what's happening there?
Yeah, they've done more drilling at the Palabora asset in South Africa. This is quite good. They've got 0.45% rare earths within the gypsum. This is material that was mined as part of a phosphate mine, and the contained value of the rare earths is actually about 15% higher than they had initially anticipated. So they reckon the gypsum contains value of about $111 a ton, and that the dysprosium and terbium credit, which they were talking about this morning, adds another $36 a ton. So that's actually very nice. And I've been in discussion with their finance director recently just about valuation on this, and it's all looking pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And quite a popular one we mentioned before, actually. Rambler Metals and Mining, RMM ticker. What's happening there? Because people liked it because it was producing, wasn't it?
Well, they had a huge restructuring last year because they were buried in debt. Almost all of that was converted into equity one way or another. Everybody took a
that explains. That explains why the share price stick the hammer in then. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Toby Bradbury went in there to clean it up and get the mining going again, because the mine was pretty disillusioned. The morale was low, things weren't working well, dilution was high. It wasn't producing the way it should. And Bradbury's actually turning that around, and I think we're going to see very good things from Rambler going forwards.
Okay, good, marvelous stuff. Anything else, John? Anything else happening?
I think that's all for now.
That's plenty. Yes, absolutely. Marvelous stuff. Thanks for that, and we'll speak next week.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, it's time for the top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours. They are at 5. Polarian Imaging, down 3% or 2.9 to 76.5. At 4, Alba Mineral Resources, up 18% to 0.325. At 2, Semper Fortis Esports, that's on Aquis Exchange. At 2, Solgold, down 5%, or 5.5%, 27.4. That's the price. And at 1, Abingdon Health, it's up 1.85% to 55 pence. All right, time for the top 5 most followed companies on Vox Markets in the last 24 hours. They are at 5, Pires Investments, final results. I talked to Nick on the podcast. At 4, Gunsand, new investment, Discover All PLC. At 3, Alba Mineral Resources, Amit Sok, Graphite Update. At 2, Deep Verge, signs MOU for JV with China Resources. And at 1, Greatland Gold, new corporate presentation. And Deep Verge is the most liked. Check those lists out at voxmarkets.co.uk. Thanks for listening. Muchos apreciados.
The Vox Markets Podcast with Justin Waite. Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.